Hello, good morning. Welcome to a reading vlog. So it is December 21st, a Wednesday, when I am filming this, and probably when this goes live, you, me, and everyone on the planet will be exhausted from the holidays. So I will try to not make this too overly festive. But today is a special day because it is the first day of my holiday vacation. So I am fortunate enough to work at a company that closes for the week between Christmas and New Year's, but I had a few vacation days that I needed to use. So I tacked them on, started my vacation 3 days earlier, and that means I basically have 13 days of freedom. No work, no nothing like that. Apart from like Christmas, I have no real plans. So it's going to be a lot of sleeping, watching TV, and reading. That's part of the plan in any case. So what I'm trying to do is take you on this reading journey with me. It is me trying to get my reading muscles that I talked about in my life update video back into ship shape for the new year. So we're gonna be using some of my reading slump tips and just going along for this ride. You'll be coming with me for a few days, seeing what I've been up to and what I'm getting up to and all of that jazz. Currently, I am in my kitchen because I'm having a cup of hot chocolate and I have a bagel in the toaster behind me. But before the day got too far along the way, anyway, before too much happened, I figured I'd check in because I read this morning for the first time in I don't know how long. Excuse me. For the first time in I don't know how long, I read and enjoyed it. Like, it did not feel like a chore because that has been an issue. So I woke up like 6 this morning. I allowed myself to watch one YouTube video, Alana Rama's beauty channel, and then I started to read, and I started to read a book that kind of goes along with my reading slump tips, which is to pick a short book. The book is just over 200 pages, so when I finish it relatively quickly, I hope, it will be an accomplishment and I'll get to say, hey, I read a book. But I also am following my other advice, which is to read a book that you know you enjoy, like a favorite of yours. And so I've decided to reread Moon Tiger. And yeah, it's going really well. I updated Storygraph for the first time in a millennia.
It's been 84 years.
Yeah, I updated the Storygraph and I'm 25% of the way through the book. And I'm really enjoying it, like a lot. It was a book that I read in January, so not even a full year ago, and I devoured it. And if I had been keeping up with my videos, it would have been in subsequent book brackets and my bracket to figure out the favorite book of the year for sure. And just based on my reaction to it right now, I think it would have easily been my favorite book of 2022. And it's a book I can certainly see myself rereading like annually because it's just so good. So Moon Tiger is about this woman, Claudia. She is a maverick. She is an author, and at the beginning of the book, she is an old woman on her deathbed. But on her deathbed, this woman who in her prime is very, very arrogant, very intelligent, she decides she's gonna write a history of the world. but it's gonna be a history of the world through the lens of Claudia Hampton. And that just shows you the sort of ego she has on her. But the book is a mix of her musings on like history and telling history and sort of lofty like human condition type stuff, as well as like her remembering sort of key people in her life and how they weave into the tapestry of her own history. And Claudia has some zingers in her, but there are just these moments of just like profoundness that I really enjoy. Like there's this moment that she's talking about language, and in the present state, in her dying condition, sometimes words elude her, and words as a writer for her are so important. And so she starts talking about language and how we are walking lexicons and how we are basically museums because of how language evolves, and we like take in language and words from people we don't even know from the past. And it's just so fascinating. And even her way of like looking at history and kind of classifying people as frontliners, people who impact history and are like actively participating in it, and those who sit it out, or those like her father who dies at the Somme, are written out by history. So it's just really interesting. It is not going to be a book for everyone, I will say that. It is pretty literary if you haven't figured that out from my description of it. And my close friend Liz, I asked her to read it and she DNF'd it because she said it was just a little bit too literary for her. But it hits me in all the feels. It makes me, it's that high that I think book lovers are always chasing, you know? I think that's why bibliophiles read so much, because they find one book that just like does something to their soul, and then they're on this quest the rest of their lives to find that type of book again. And that was Moon Tiger for me. So I'm very, very, very excited to be rereading it. But that is all to say, it is currently, what time is it? 9:31, and I am eating my bagel. I'm not gonna eat in front of you on the camera because no one wants to see me chewing. But it is 9:31 and I have some holiday related like errands to run. And yeah, I am also going to be listening to an audiobook, one that I started and got 77% of the way through before shit hit the fan in the summer, The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. So I borrowed that again through the Libby app and I'm planning to finish it. I know it's not the best reading experience to literally put a book down for months and months and months and then resume it, but I was enjoying it enough at the time that I remember the plot and where I was in the book, so I think it should be okay. I think. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that book's gonna accompany me on my errands and some of my like household chores along the way. But yeah, I've been talking for eons now and have not moved, and now my hot chocolate is getting cold, as is my bagel. So I'm gonna go and I will check in with you guys a little bit later. Hello. So in my head I envisioned a ton of B-roll of my errand running, and yeah, that didn't happen because it is very overwhelming out there a few days before Christmas. I thought because it was a Wednesday in the middle of the morning that stores would be relatively empty. That was not the case. That was not the case at all. They were packed. I had to park on the other end of a shopping center mall because there was just no parking anywhere. And even then I circled for like 10 or 15 minutes. And yeah, it was a lot. So I did not listen to my audiobook. And I did not get B-roll because people everywhere. But I'm back at home. Obviously, you can see the living room with some of my Christmas decorations over there. I literally just got back, did some Christmas shopping, spent more than I wanted to. I went out originally just to get stocking stuffers. I got Mom some of her British candies, flakes, buttons, which, what did she say the commercial was? Melts in your mouth, not in your hands. These cute Malteser reindeers, which these are her like go-to candy when she goes to a movie theater. So I got those. Unfortunately, they didn't have crunchies, which are her favorite, but they were completely wiped out of those. So apparently they're the favorites of some other people in the area too, but I got her those. I got her some skincare stuff. But yeah, so I got a bunch of stuff for her stocking, and then inadvertently bought both of my parents additional gifts. Should I have? No. Did I? Yes. Am I happy about it? Yes, because I am a Christmas elf and I love to give people things. So I'm back home after all of that madness with no real reading updates, to be quite honest, since I didn't read anything. But the plan is to primarily stay home for the rest of the afternoon. It's like 12:20 right now. I'm probably gonna curl up on the couch with my laptop to listen to The Heart Principle while working on my Etsy shop, which I alluded to in my life update video. It is not book related, so I won't bore you with the details. But the too long didn't read it version is that I'm creating a digital print shop for basically travel photography from all my adventures in Europe over the years. So I want to spend some time picking the photos for that, editing the photos for that, resizing them. So yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna do. Listen to The Heart Principle. If I don't listen to The Heart Principle, then I'll probably put on a Christmas movie, to be quite honest. I'm in the Christmas mood, not gonna lie. And then my only other real plans for today are either one or both of my aunts are coming up for dinner. So sorry, that's the heat kicking on. Florence makes a lot of noises, especially when she's heating. But yeah, that's at 6:30, so I have time. Like I said, it's like not even 12:30. So I'm gonna go because now I've rambled on about nothing book related for a fair moment. And that's not what you're here for, I understand. But hopefully next time I check in, I will have book updates for you. Hello, greetings. It is the golden hour at not even 4 in the afternoon. It's like just before 4 actually. But I just realized today is winter solstice, so it's the shortest day of the year. So days are just gonna get longer from here, which yay. But that also means I kind of would like to do like a tarot drawing later today, tonight, I guess. But I figured I'd check in, because I did get through some of my Etsy stuff, namely just like selecting some photos from a few of my trips. Listen, I have thousands of photos from some of these trips, so it takes time. So I did that. But while I was doing that, I did finish The Heart Principle. So yay! As I said, I had started this book sometime in the summer, got through 3/4 of it, and just didn't get to finish it. And I would have to say that considering how many months it's been since I listened to this book, the fact that the plot and the characters were still so vivid to me, I think is just like a big kudos to Helen Huang for creating such a memorable story. It is a contemporary romance, and it does have a neurodivergent main character, Anna, like Helen Huang's other books. And I really enjoyed it. I think that overall the themes that it deals with are heavier than in the other books, but I think that's part of why I really enjoyed it, because
I like my books that make me cry. Or maybe you don't know that if you're new to this channel. But I do love books that make me cry, and there were a couple of moments in this book where my eyes got misty. So yeah, it was really, really good. But I think the characters are very lovable, Anna and Quan, but I also think that it feels like so much more than just a romance, because these are characters that have their own personal demons that they're addressing, as well as like their issues as a couple that they need to work through. And it was really good. I mean, Anna is a professional violinist, and she's kind of dealing with imposter syndrome after going viral. Like, from that point, she just is having trouble playing. And she also is different socially and doesn't really understand why, but she knows that it makes it difficult for her to say no, and she's kind of weighed down by everyone's expectations of her. They expect so much from her, and it is to a level that you kind of feel it's unfair. And so you really want her to come into her own as a character, but I think regardless of being neurodivergent or not, I think we can all relate to imposter syndrome at some point. I think we can all relate to how difficult it can be to say no, or to feel like you're not living up to the expectations that people have of you. And yeah, I loved her as a character. And then Quan, to the outside world, he's tattooed and this really macho kind of guy, but he's dealing with body issues because he's recovered from an illness, and it now makes him feel very uncomfortable about getting naked in front of people, and therefore having sex with people. And so it's him having to grapple with this, coming to terms with his new self, his new body, and like what that means for him as a man. And it's just like there's just so much texture and layer to these two characters. And like, I know I just kind of word vomited a lot, and I feel like someone's gonna be like, that's a lot going on in a book. It is, but I think it's really handled quite well, and I think it just makes the characters more endearing and more lovable as Anna and Quan, and their steamy sex scenes and the kind of romance unfolds, and you see that regardless of how the other people in their lives are treating them, and I mean, most of the like negative treatment is on Anna's side, but when you see them come together and you see how much they care for one another, and how much like Anna tries to like push herself beyond her comfort zone to give him what he needs so that he can give her what she needs, like it's just great. I had a fabulous time with it. So yeah, so I finished that, and then I wrapped a few gifts. I don't know why all of my parents' gifts so far have been huge, but I just wrapped a few of those. And yeah, now I don't know what time my aunt or aunts are coming. Dinner's at 6:30. They're an hour away. I know they wanted to come and see like the house in all of its Christmassy glory. But in the meantime, I think I might try to edit a few photos. And then yeah, you probably won't hear too much from me again until, oh, my stomach, man, I'm hungry. You probably won't hear more reading updates from me until tomorrow morning, but I did borrow another book from Libby, because now that I finished The Heart Principle, I was like, well, what am I going to do? I have baking that I'm going to be doing probably tomorrow. I have a baking that I'm probably going to be doing on Saturday. I have driving to do. So I ended up getting Lioness or The Lioness by Chris Bojalian. Wow, I'm butchering words today. But it's one of those books that every time I go to a bookstore, I see it. Every time I'm in the Libby app, it pops up. And I have just never, like, borrowed it or bought it for whatever reason. But it sounds so good. So I figured it's historical fiction. It's an 8-hour audiobook, which isn't too long. It's like, let's give it a shot. I've heard good things about his writing. And the premise sounds really interesting. It's set in Tanzania in the 1960s. The cast of characters seem to be kind of glamorous. One is a Hollywood actor or actress, and they go on safari with some friends, and things go wrong. And the blurb talks about how the book addresses race. It seems like there's going to be some political stuff going on, because from what little about the plot is revealed in the description, they're kidnapped by mercenaries. So there's some political element to it as well. That angle kind of reminds me of Bel Canto by Anne Patchett that I read. In that case, I preferred the movie to the book. But hopefully this is slightly different. But yeah, looking forward to starting that probably tomorrow. But yeah, in the meantime, I am going to have a snack because my stomach has been grumbling this entire time, and edit some edit some photos, and wait for my aunts, I guess? I don't know.
Good morning. It is something to 10. And I did some reading this morning. Not as much as I had wanted to, but I kind of had a late start for me. I had dinner with my aunts last night and it was lovely. And then I got home around 9:30 and kind of just curled up in bed. And I actually managed to sleep until nearly 7, which is unheard of. So I didn't start reading until late. And I did read. I got through about 20-25 pages of Moon Tiger, so not a ton, but baby steps, people, baby steps. And this is a section of the book where there were some like real insightful and profound like literary passages that gave me chills the first time I read it, and then gave me chills the second time I read it. And one of them is slightly on the religious side. The character is not religious. She's agnostic and blasphemous most of the time. But she's talking about and reflecting on like the 2 times in her life that she prayed. And this comes up in this chapter. So also I'll just trigger warning, there's some violence discussed in this passage. So there is that. But I felt like a literary nerd and needed to read this to someone. So you're the someones. God shall have a starring role in my history of the world. How could it be otherwise? If he exists, then he is responsible for the whole marvelous, appalling narrative. If he does not, then the very proposition that he might has killed more people and exercised more minds than anything else. He dominates the stage. In his name have been devised the rack, the thumbscrew, the Iron Maiden, the stake. For him have people been crucified, flayed alive, fried, boiled, flattened. He has generated the Crusades, pogroms, the Inquisition, and more wars than I can number. But for him, there would not be the St. Matthew Passion, the works of Michelangelo, or Chartres Cathedral. So how am I to present him, this invisible, all-pervasive catalyst? Chills! Every freaking time. Chills. But yeah, so just continuing to read that. Currently, I am about to do some packing for the stuff I need to take to my parents, which is proving a little bit difficult because it's supposed to be really, really cold. There's like a bomb cyclone coming through. So like tomorrow is gonna be rainy and super windy and hot, and then the temperature is gonna drop from like 53 degrees Fahrenheit to like 10 overnight. And then it's gonna be like cold for the next couple of days. So I'm not really sure what to pack. But that's why I'm in this awkward position, because I'm literally leaning in my suitcase to pack things. It's a carry-on, it's not like a large suitcase. I'm not that extra. Because I'm gonna be there until like Monday, Tuesday is my estimation, before I drive home. So I'm really just packing like comfortable clothes I can be a slob around my parents' house in, and like a couple of sweaters and things, I think. But in addition to that, I have like all of my beauty things. That's just one container. And then all the makeup. So that's something else. This for my hair. And I think I'm gonna take the marriage portrait with me. Because there's a chance that I will finish Moon Tiger. I don't anticipate reading on Christmas, but I might, and then I can bring this with me, and then, yeah, I think that might have solved my packing conundrum, to be honest, talking through that with you guys. But yeah, I think that works. I do need to, I want to put some of the presents in the car today, in the trunk, just because I have a feeling when I try to leave tomorrow, it's going to be super rainy, and it's not going to be easy to move these big packages that are wrapped in paper to the car, like, while it's raining, because either I'm going to get soaked or they're going to get soaked. So I think I'm going to do that today. But otherwise, today is going to be pretty chill. I think I'm going to be staying in these sweats and comfy clothes things. Maybe make the dough for the shortbread cookies and just hang out and watch Christmas movies. I'm not really planning to leave. Maybe I'll order a pizza later. I don't know. But that's the update for now. I will check in with you guys when there's more to be updated on.
Good morning. This is a terribly flattering angle. But it is Friday. And it is like 7 in the morning. So technically it's not sunrise yet. But I've been awake, I want to say for an hour, maybe an hour 15. Read a little bit more of Moon Tiger. I'm now like 80 something pages in. So not quite at the 50% mark. But I'm kind of at the part where the love story is the focus. And there's some really beautiful passages about Egypt and the desert, and these really like lovely sort of amorous moments that are showing you a softer side of Claudia, which is really interesting. And so I'm kind of savoring these passages a little bit at the moment. If I weren't leaving for my parents' house, I would probably read for a bit longer. But I'm trying to like leapfrog, is that even the right expression? Some of the bad weather. So the bomb cyclone is coming through, which means that I am not terribly thrilled to be leaving my dear Florence, my little blue Victorian, unsupervised. Right now, because my parents are an hour south of me, I'm trying to wait for daylight. I am trying to leave when it's not raining and I am trying to leave before the temperature starts to drop, meaning that the roads would get slick. Now, I guess I should get a move on, because I want to, like, make sure everything in the house is set for me to leave. I really don't want to leave Florence. And it's really funny because, Katie was saying, how I've become attached to the house because I've morphized her. Why can't I say this word? It's too early in the morning. Which is true, but I've also always named things. Like, it's just how it is. Like, from childhood, I named inanimate objects. But I also just wish I were here, you know? Like, I like being in my house. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, so I should get a move on, I guess. And I'll check in with you at some point. I think I'm doing a white chocolate raspberry tart for my family, so I will likely be baking and listening to some stuff and trying to get a little bit more reading done before the holidays. A real moment for home ownership. So I've been getting ready to go to my parents, kind of like in this, like, I don't want to go, like, I don't want to leave the house, like, it's supposed to be really bad weather type mentality, but, like, I've been packing up the car, doing my last, like, walkthrough of the house like I normally do. We got a ton of rain, and as a result, I have about an inch of water in the basement. Which is someone who never had subterranean basements, like, just blind panic. So I, like, called my dad, who is, like, a master of all things house related. It's about an inch, primarily at the front of the house by the Bilco door. I've looked around the foundation. There's no ponding anywhere. Don't see anything amiss with the gutters. The walls in the basement, even around the windows, are completely dry, and the two back corners are also pretty dry. Like, the concentration of the water is right up front by the Bilco door. So, and, like, all the plumbing, the heating, everything is still working. So Dad thinks it's because he's like, you didn't hear the thunder and lightning? And I was just like, no. And he was like, very early in the morning, like 3, 4, like, it was pouring. He's like, I would be surprised if we didn't get like 2 inches of rain in the course of like the first few hours of the morning. And he's like, so it's likely that it came in through that door. And yeah, so that's fun. That's fun home ownership stuff. Not ideal. Not ideal. Hello! Happy New Year. Today is January 1st, and I have been very, very, very remiss in vlogging for over a week now. So my apologies. It's kind of a crazy time to vlog though. I think though the last clip that you will have seen was me very upset over a flooded basement, which was the Friday morning. I was supposed to be going to my parents' house. So it thankfully was not sewer or any plumbing in my house. It seems to have been groundwater from the like bomb cyclone. We got, my father said, probably 2 to 3 inches of rain in a few hours overnight when I was asleep. So we're pretty sure that's what it was, because thankfully my neighbor John, he came over, he helped me pick out a sump pump, he showed me how to use it, he stayed with me, he brought over his wet vac. As we were like emptying out the basement of all this water, we're seeing where the dirt hole is from where they did the repair to the pipe because of the roots, that there's like water trickling from under the concrete from the soil, like it's bubbling up from the soil. So
water does what water does, which is find the path of least resistance, and that hole was the path of least resistance, because John owned this house for 3 years, never had any issues with the basement, and the only difference now is that hole. So we are going to, he said, me and my son, they're gonna patch the concrete, which should help with, he said, hydrostatic pressure. He's an architect, so I trust him on that sort of thing, and hopefully that shouldn't be an issue again. We've had a little rain since then. It has not been an issue. But yeah, very, very stressful going into the holidays, because I had like misgivings about leaving the house when it was supposed to get as cold as it was supposed to get. But it ended up working out. And then, ooh, my Pop-Tarts, not my Pop-Tarts, my waffles. Excuse me, Mom. Sorry. So yeah, so going into the holidays was a little bit tense, and it derailed my baking plans. But I did make shortbread cookies still, and I went home and had a really lovely time with my parents and family, and then came home Tuesday and legitimately have vegged out since then, which is also why I haven't been vlogging much, because there has not been anything to update you guys on reading wise. I have been a couch potato, and I intend to do the same today. I'm making myself a nice little waffle breakfast, and I'm going to continue my tradition for New Year's, which is I marathon some of my favorite movies. So last night I watched Elizabeth I with Helen Mirren, which is very long. It's like 3 hours plus, because it's a 2-parter thing from HBO. And then I watched The Madness of King George, which also has Helen Mirren in it. But I do love it a lot. She's only a supporting character in it, but I do quite enjoy that movie. So I think today what I'm going to do is continue with my marathon. I really want to watch The English Patient, but I know it's going to make me ugly sob. And I kind of want to watch 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and low-key want to watch The Phantom Thread, which I feel like I might put on while I'm eating my waffles, because that is it's on Netflix, so I don't have to dig out the Blu-ray or DVD for it. So I have a feeling that's what I'm gonna be doing this morning. While I eat, Mom may or may not make an appearance. I think it just depends on how lazy she also wants her January 1st to be. But yeah, I figured I would leave the vlog here because I don't have any updates reading-wise, but I am hoping that come tomorrow I can pick back up on this reading train. I still have Moon Tiger to finish reading for the 2nd time, which probably I'll finish in a day or 2. And I have the Crispo Jalen book still on loan with Libby, and I also took out The Marriage Plot by, what's her name? Maggie O'Farrell. She's the one that wrote Hamnet. So I have that book out beside my nightstand as well. It's kind of interesting because it's the first year in a very, very long time that like I didn't have a bunch of books on my Christmas list, because everything that I wanted was for the house. So I don't have a huge like book haul in that sense, but I do still want to put in a little bit of a haul for my birthday, as a tradition, in the next week or so. So I should do that. I do have a book that's on order with my local Barnes and Nobles, so hopefully Jack comes in soon. But anyway, that's it for now, guys. As I told you, I would be back in the new year, and that's the plan. So as of right now, I'm hoping 1 video a week, and hopefully I'll start like edging up to where I was before my absenteeism. So yeah, I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful holiday season if you celebrate. And if not, I hope that you just had a wonderful week or two. So I'll see you next week. Bye.